So, hallo. So. Okay, gut, es ist Freitagnachmittag, 16 Uhr. Wir sind jetzt heute am letzten Tag des Deutschland Power Weeks angekommen. Und wie immer, bevor wir starten, ein paar kleine Hinweise. Dafür habe ich eine kleine PowerPoint vorbereitet. Ja, wer noch nicht dabei war, der kennt das noch nicht. Also, erstmal danke, dass ihr alle hier seid und euch die Zeit nehmt, hier mit uns durch die verschiedenen Vorträge zu gehen. Wie immer der Hinweis, dass wir die Sessions aufzeichnen. Ja, das heißt, wir werden alles rekorden und am Samstag auf YouTube stellen, auf unseren Kanal. Bei Fragen bitte einfach den Chat benutzen. Ja, wir beobachten den und je nachdem, wie es bei den Speakern oder wie die das gerne hätten, fragen wir in der Regel am Ende, ja, oder auch zwischendurch. Das müssen wir einfach schauen, wie wir das hinkriegen. Gut, dann bitte, wenn ihr neu dazukommt, einfach stumm schalten, weil es kommen immer wieder Leute rein und raus und dann gibt es manchmal Störgeräusche. Das ist dann manchmal nicht so gut. Also versucht euch bitte einfach stumm zu schalten. Gut, dann, wenn es irgendwelche Probleme geben sollte, ja, ihr seht irgendwas nicht, der Bildschirm ist schwarz oder ihr kommt nicht in das Meeting, dann schickt uns einfach nochmal eine E-Mail. Der Ras, der Ambesh und ich, wir schauen nach und versuchen so schnell es geht zu helfen. Aber habt ein bisschen Geduld. Also es kann mal ein bisschen länger dauern, auch ein paar Minuten. Aber wir beobachten das und versuchen so gut es geht zu helfen. Gut, dann das mit der Kamera. Das ist hier so ein kleines Problem hatten wir am Dienstag wegen der Qualität. Ja. Ich überlasse das euch, wie ihr das machen wollt. Wichtig ist nur, vielleicht nicht in der Nase poppeln, vielleicht nicht gerade einschlafen oder irgendwie fluchen. Ja, ansonsten könnt ihr das handhaben, wie ihr wollt. Ja. Gut, dann kommen wir heute zur Agenda. Wir haben heute 5 Vorträge. 5, also es geht heute wirklich bis in den Abend hinein. Und wir starten mit 3 englischen Vorträgen. Einmal vom Frederik, danach kommt der Ambesh, danach der Marco. Ja, ich sage noch ein bisschen was und wechsle dann gleich auf Englisch. Und danach haben wir noch den Marco und ganz zum Schluss sage ich noch ein paar Worte und ich gebe auch noch den Gewinner unseres Lego-Gewinnspiels von Docs42 bekannt. Also wer wissen möchte, ob er das Lego gewonnen hat oder nicht, der muss bis heute Abend durchhalten. Da führt kein Weg dran vorbei. Gut, ansonsten genießt das einfach, ja. Faltet euch fair gegenüber den Präsentatoren und macht einfach mit. Und jetzt versuche ich ein bisschen auf Englisch zu switchen. Good. So our first presentation is from Frederick. Frederick is a Power Platform consultant working for AppFi in Belgium. He's an active blogger. He's speaking at various events. And let me show you his website. So if you are interested what he is doing, he actually has a blog where he puts many things. So if you want to contact him, if you want to find additional information, that's a good place to get started. And today, Frederick is talking about deliver enhanced user experience with combining Azure Teams and the Microsoft Power Platform. So that's my short intro. Now let's hand it over to Frederick. Frederick, can you hear and see us?
Yes. Welcome everybody.
Switch off my camera.
Yeah. Thank you for the introduction, Ludwig. I will start sharing my screen. Give me a second.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So I will talk today about how we can combine Azure functionalities teams and the Power Platform without using a lot of code. So I'm Frederik Bisbach. I'm a Power Platform consultant. I'm working at AFI. Currently changed job from an Azure consultant to a Power Platform consultant during COVID times. I'm now working for AFI, doing what I've started, I think now 3 years ago. So, sorry, Ludwig, could you? Something is clicking in the background.
Yeah, 1 second.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So I said that I was changing job during COVID time. So I was previously a Power Azure consultant. Now I'm a Power Platform consultant already for 6 months, and this track started almost 3 years ago, where I came in contact with Flow and now Power Automate, and I think there the love starts. And now I'm doing everything with Power Apps and Flow. Also in Belgium, I'm a member of the Belgian Power Apps and Flow user group. I was a speaker on the Power Platform Online conference this year, and I'm also a community blogger. So it's a long time ago because I have less time for the moment, but normally this year I make more time to be on the community blog to answer questions of people that have problems. You can follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn. You can send me an email. I'm always pleased to answer your questions and help you with problems. So yeah, this story I would like to talk about today is started some 1-2 years ago. And I was thinking, okay, I know the Power Platform, I know Power Automate, I'm using also PowerShell, but how I can now combine or how can I deploy an Azure environment or a standard environment into Azure without using no code or less code. So I start thinking about how can I make an example of not only using business processes or in your environment and automate it with Power Apps and Flow, but also thinking about how I can automate without low coding or no coding Azure resources, deploy Azure resources into Azure. So I was starting thinking, okay, my thinking process was, okay, let's use the Power Platform. And then thinking about, okay, what are the possibilities into Azure that I can use to deploy standard environments? If you have, for example, a developer team in your company, and you would like to deploy each time the same environment. For example, a web app with application insights so that they can deploy their application or their web application that they have built and that they can test it. And also that the manager, for example, needs to approve before it can be deployed into the Azure environment. And so I came in contact also with, because of my Azure consultant skills, I came in contact with Azure Blueprints. And Azure Blueprints in Azure gives us the possibility to create a blueprint of an environment that is standard in your business or into your Azure environment. So, and there was my idea to start building something that is talking with each other. So let us build something that use Power Platform that can talk to Azure or to the Azure Blueprint service and deploy Azure resources into Azure, and also to manage it, and also to get approvals to see that the manager is notified about it, that a person of the team can request it, and that he can follow up his request by using, for example, a Power App, and not, for example, a normal ITSM solution where you can request a ticket and you will wait till IT deploys it and get back with the information that your environment has been deployed. So I started more thinking about it, and I came with this idea. So if you see the picture, you have several arrows and things that's connecting Power Apps with CDS, with Power Automate, with Azure Key Vault, with Teams, and then also going to Azure, using Azure Blueprints, and then deploy the environment so that we have a web app, that we have a web app environment where we have an application insights, for example. So the process I was thinking about, so the technical flow was, okay, the requester at this point use a Power App so that he can request his environment. So it gives a name of his environment into the Power App, also selects who will be the owner of the environment, who will be only seeing the environment, and who will be a contributor of the environment. And then also, for example, add some tags to the environment so that we can add, for example, a cost center, so that when the IT team takes or has a Power BI, that they can see how many utilization has been done for that specific cost center. Then everything is stored in CDS. So I've used CDS because CDS in the Power Platform is, for me, a central storage place where Power BI can connect, Power Automate can connect, or your Power Apps can connect and use the same data, and also update the data and change the data. So CDS was, for me, here a solution. Again, yeah, when we're talking about licenses, you will have to think about this, that this is a premium connector and that you have additional licenses needed. That's the only downside of this idea. Approval to manager via Teams. So when a request is coming in, the approval will be sent via Teams using an adaptive card, so that the manager can directly approve or decline and add some comments via the adaptive card into Teams, so that he not needs to send an email or go to the Power App and type there the request. So it's easy, it's straight, and you don't need to educate a lot of people to understand the whole process. So then the result of the approval of the manager will be sent back to the requester, also via an adaptive card via Teams, to say, okay, your manager has approved your request and your environment will be deployed in Azure. Then what I did also, I was thinking about how can I secure my secrets, and that's using Azure Key Vault in Azure, and use these secrets into my Power Automate. So I have also included Azure Key Vault, where I stored my my tenant information and also my secrets that I'm using to connect to my Azure Blueprint REST API. Azure Blueprint REST, what I did, I create a custom connector because Azure Blueprint has not yet a standard connector into Power Automate or Power Apps, so the connector doesn't exist. So what I took is, I went to the Azure Blueprint REST, I took all the examples that were there, and I created, based on these examples, my custom connector, so that I could start using without any coder, without any PowerShell script, to start talking with the Azure Blueprints service in Azure. And then at the end, we'll get notified into the Power App. We can follow up the deployment. So the requester can follow up the deployment. And when the deployment has been finished, then based on the role-based access permissions, the developer can start pushing his application or use the environment. I have just one question, and maybe you can raise all your hands in Teams. Who has experience with Azure? I forgot to ask. Yeah. 2 persons. Who has experience with Power Apps and Power Automate? Yeah, there are a lot of people. Nice. And who has really no experience with Power Apps, Flow, and Azure? Okay, nobody. Cool. Yeah, some of them. Yeah, cool. Okay, thanks. If we go more in depth into the components in which I have used in this example kind of POC that I've built is I use Power Apps to request the environments. I've used Power Automate to make the automation. So again, low coding. And then used CDS in the middle to store all my data requests, data of the assignment process. So I can fill out what has been deployed, and also Teams as a communication channel to communicate between the requester, manager, and the deployment. So I will shortly explain what is Azure Blueprints. So Azure Blueprints in Azure give us the possibility to create an environment that has or an environment that is standard in your organization and that you can redeploy each time again and again. It's also possible when you have updates on that blueprint that you can deploy it on all the deployments that already have been done based on that deployment. You can also create assign roles. So you can also say, okay, this person needs to be the reader of the environment. This is the owner of the environment. You can create also policies that exist in your environment, so it can be used also into the blueprint. To build the blueprint, you use the standard resource manager template. So the existing resource manager templates that exist in Azure, you can reuse it and create your blueprint with. And also, you can also create resource groups with. So the resource management template, you can deploy nearly everything within the resource group. And then also what I've already said, that you can also assign an explicit deny or allow via the Azure policies so that you can secure the the Azure resource group so that that's aligned with the company policies. So what if we could get informed or take action from within your current application? I'm using adaptive cards because adaptive cards gives you a more user-friendly visualization of what you would like to tell to your person that receives the message. When you would like to send a basic message from Outflow with Teams, it's like you typing a text into the Teams channel or to that person into a chat. But I think it gives you more flexibility if you would like to create a template or an adaptive card that is templates like your company policy or the colors of your company, you had a logo in your company. And then the advances of an adaptive card is also that you can put actions in it. So you can type text in it You can create buttons, for example, an approve or a decline button. The user can click on it, and the feedback will be sent back to the bot, and you can parse it from the bot into your flow back and use this feedback from the user that receives the adaptive card. So the adaptive cards can be used on the bot framework. It's simply to integrate. It's also usable in Microsoft Teams. And it's also changing if you're using the black template of Microsoft Teams. It will also be shown in the black color. So it's adapting to the environment. It's also adapting to the environment where the adaptive card is coming in. You can also use it in actionable messages. So you can create an adaptive card that's usable in Outlook. And you can also create an adaptive card that you can use in the Windows timeline. So you can also integrate it into your Windows environment. As I already said, it's performance-wise, it's very fast, it's user-friendly, it's native UI, and can be running on any platform. So you can also fully extendable. So you can add actions, you can add your own elements. So it can go from adding some text, but to more advanced action that you can implement. And it adapts to your surroundings of your user interface. So as I already said, if your Teams is in black, then your adaptive cards will also be changing in black. So the user experience is very, for me, it's great. And it's very usable in production environments. And then it's an MACAD interactive. So if you would like to, for example, also in my example, you will see it. When I click the decline button, it will open a text comment field where the manager can say, okay, that's the reason why I have declined. And this feedback will then go back to the requester. Some examples of adaptive cards, and I've also the two examples in my presentation here that I have created. So this is the request that's going to the manager. So you will see all the information, who was the requester, what is the environment location, so in which Azure region you will deploy your environment, what is the cost center, who is the owner, contributor, and the reader of the environment or the resource group, and then the manager can approve and reject. A feedback adaptive card is shown here, and other examples you will also find on the adaptivecards.io. You will see a lot of other examples that you can reuse and adapt. The other question for me, because when I was creating this, I never heard from adaptive cards, and I came in contact from my colleague that is also a member of the Belgian Power Apps and Flow user group, Clifton, because he has also some credits in this, because we built it together. He learned me how to use adaptive cards. And do you need to be a developer? No, because everything is there for a citizen developer or a guy that has no experience with code or JSON files, because we have the adaptive cards online editor. So when you go to adaptivecards.io, you will see everything in one page. So you have the documentation. Okay, what's adaptive cards? How you can use adaptive cards? What are the possibilities? And you have the schema explorer. So this is telling you every schema item that exists in adaptive cards. It's explained very well here. You can also use some samples or see some samples, tested it. What is the user experience? The blog, so more information about adaptive cards, what you can do, some Microsoft blogs, And then the designer, what you see here on the screen, where you can start building your own by just dragging and dropping, for example, a container so that you can add some items in one container and to build your adaptive cards. And also by selecting the host application, you can also see the user experience. For example, if you use Microsoft Teams in the dark modus, then the adaptive cards will be shown like this. Is it the light modus, then it will be the white background, and it will be shown also with the white background. The code is then generated for you, so you don't need to think about, okay, is the code correct? You just copy and paste it in your flow. I will show it later in my demo where I did it, and you can reuse it. As simple as that. And yeah, it's very cool that a citizen developer can use this in his business process flow. So that's also part of the idea that we came up with. Okay, let's then integrate this in Teams, because Teams is for me a central collaboration part in my organization. So we are doing everything with Teams. We collaborate in Teams. We share documents in Teams. We put documents in Teams and then share this with each other and use this. So this was also my intention, also to integrate everything in Teams. So the Power App integration in Teams and also the communication in Teams. And at the moment when I was creating this, I was blessed that Microsoft came out with new actions, and these actions helped me a lot to also optimize my flow, because using this new preview actions, it gave me also the possibility to minimize also the length of my process flow or my Power Automate flow, because this action is sending the message and also waiting. And before these connections, I had to create first the adaptive cards, then start the approval, and another action was creating the wait for approval, and now it's all in one step. Also, what's very exciting is that when you go into the experimental modus, when you're creating a Power Automate flow, you use the experimental modus. You have, when you add the action in Teams to use an adaptive cards into your and send an adaptive cards to, for example, a Teams channel, you can also already create or use the create adaptive card editor button, and this will open the adaptive card editor in the Power Automate screen. But just a remark, it's only an experimental modus. When you didn't enable it, you will not have it. But yeah, it's great to try it out, and it works for the moment very well. More roadmap release plans, where you can use adaptive cards. I know there was a release in June that adaptive card has been enabled for Power Virtual Agent. So you can also use adaptive cards in your Power Virtual Agent. And there are a lot of other cool stuff that are coming up. So you can look them up here. Okay, that was a part of the adaptive card. So we had our communication. And for me now, the other part was how I can get from Power Apps and get my information into Azure via the communication to Azure Blueprint service. And in the Power Platform, we have already 300, and I can't follow up anymore. I think it will be 340, 50 plus connectors already that we can use into the Power Platform. So out of the box, you can use it. There are already some Azure connectors, like the Azure Key Vault, you can use it. But for Azure Blueprints, there is no standard connector already integrated. So what I did is I built my own custom connector. So Ludwig has shown also my blog. If you scan it, you will go to my blog and you will see the explanation how I built the custom connector for Azure Blueprint. So it's explained over there. You can also download it and integrate it directly in your custom connectors. It's available on github.com/Frederik Bisbach. And what I did is I created based on the documentation that I found on docs.microsoft.com, went to the REST information, and there you have, maybe I can let you show it, how I did it. So I went to this site. So here you will see all the API possibilities that exist in Microsoft. And you will find also the API for blueprints, and all the API calls are explained very well here and are very well documented, and also the examples. And based on these examples, I have built my custom connector. So I used each time, for example, for creating or updating an assignment in Azure Blueprints, I use this information to create my own action for my custom connector. I can show you how I did it. So in Power Automate, under data, here in data, you will find the item custom connector. And here you can build your own custom connectors. And when you say, okay, click create new connector, you come onto a page like this, and all the icons, like here will be a standard icon, the color will be standard, and all these things need to be filled in by yourself. So what I did, I uploaded an icon so that it's aligned to the Azure Blueprint, icon. I gave it a background color so that also the bar of my color will also change when I use the custom connector in my flow. I have a description so that when somebody would like to use the connector, he knows what it's doing. And then I connected to the management of Azure Ghost, because this is the URL that you need to use when you would like to do API calls to Azure. What I did is use OAuth 2.0. So in Azure, I created an API or an app. I created an app that connects back to my custom connector. I created my client secret ID and my client secret, and this is normally filled in. When I save it, it will become like this, but it's filled in. It seems to be that it's not filled in, but it's filled in. And then the redirect URL will be generated automatically. In definitions, you can create all your actions. So what I did is creating a new action. When I click create new action, you will have you can add summary, you add the description, and then you can here import sample information. And this import sample information helped me very well because Microsoft documents this also in its docs. And then I have reused them by just copying and paste it herein, create the action. Also the response is documented into the, so the response is here. It's also documented. I just copy and paste it. And this will generate for me in the background the connector, and I will go back. So what it does, when I go to definitions, so I will put in what's the get is the post. I will put the URL here, and then it will generate the variable. So what's in the path? So the scope is there. I need to have an assignment name. The API version I've added as a fixed value, and then also when you have the 200, you add the import sample, you add the response, and everything is generated for you. So you do this for all the actions you need. If you are finished, you can test it. And so you can say, okay, start a new connection, and then you add the scope variable, the assignment name, and you can test and you get feedback of the API call. So that is how I did it. It took some time to create the actions, but at the end it was just copying, pasting it in, and just testing if the functionality was working fine. And of course, creating the app into Azure and create a secret for that app so that I can communicate to the Azure Blueprint service in Azure. And I see I have still 15 minutes, I think, Ludwig. We can go quickly to a demo. And I will show you some examples of the flow. What I did, this is my Power App I've created. Add some information. In the overview, you will see all the requests that have already been done. Who was the manager, if it's approved or declined, if there is still a pending approval, and what is the cost center, and also the details of what is the process. When it's completed or approved, you will see that it was successfully installed. So when the user wants to request one, he can type an environment name, like and you'll see that the app gives also what will be deployed. You will see that there will be a resource group name, there will be a web app deployed with this name, app service plan will be deployed, and application insight will be deployed. And all the naming convention is like Microsoft proposed to use into Azure. Then the user can select the owner. So this is Birgit. She will be the owner of the environment. Contributor, she would like to have me as a contributor, and the reader will be her manager. Don't find him, but for example, Lut is her environment, her reader. She can read the environment. Then we can add some text, for example, and here it will be the cost center. It's also limited in characters. And then also using, for example, we will deploy it in West Europe. That's for me the closest location. And then we have an overview, what has been requested. And then we say, okay, assign. What happened now is that the information will be put on CTS, and this will trigger a flow. And the flow will be this one. Sorry, it's not this one. What I did also, I've put everything in solution because we have one main flow that's starting, and based on interactions, approvals, we start other child flows. And using child flows in a Power Automate flow, you need to use a solution so that you can call the other flow into your main flow. Let's give it a minute to load. Maybe I can show you the result of the request. This is the manager view. So I said that when a request is coming in, the manager will be notified via an adaptive card in his Teams. And what I see here is that the manager has received a message. So let's have a look. And you see that it's coming from the Flowbot. If you remember, Birgit Zwaal would write requests an environment. So the manager received his request in an adaptive card in his Teams. And as I already said, he can approve or reject. So if you would like to reject it, you will see that he has that the adaptive card changed and that we have the possibility to add some comments. So he can say, okay, no budget anymore. And when I click send, this information will be sent back to Birgit, and she will get notified of the request. I have the example already there, how it will look when she receives. I go to the chat. You will see that my previous request was not approved. It was rejected. In the comments, he said, sorry. So you see that we can quickly interact using this adaptive card between the manager and on a simple way without using any code or using just local functionalities. And for me, it was when I saw this together with Clifton, this was for me an eye opener, and it gave me more possibilities to do something with adaptive cards. If I approve now, she will get notified that the request has been approved, and also your adaptive card is changing. So you send feedback back, and this request is being done, and it's telling this also to you, so that you don't not click, or you can't click this anymore. For example, this is not yet done, but he is notified that this request has been sent. So it has been approved. If we see now the flow here, this is the flow that's kicking in. So this is my main flow. So when an Azure Blueprint assignment request has been created, it will be stored on onto CDS. And I don't know if everybody knows this lock, but this lock is very interesting. If you have a flow build that contains, for example, sensitive data, you can use in the settings the security input and security output, secure inputs and secure output, sorry, and this will secure your output of your result. If I will go back to a success run of this flow, you will see, or you cannot see what has been sent from the action or from the trigger here to the following action. So this is good to protect some sensitive data. Going back to the edit mode. I use the Azure Key Vault. So I have here my subscription ID of Azure that I have stored in Key Vault. So I get this information and I will use this information to run my child flow. So I will send this information to the approval blueprint request version 2.0 process, and I will send this information to there so that the approvals process can start. When the approval has been done and it has been approved, we see that another process is kicking in. So we will update the status of the request. So we see that the status has been approved, and also we run the blueprint assignment process. So if we go to the Azure Blueprint assignment process, there I have used my custom connector. So the custom connector that we have built is used over here. So I'm calling also a child flow. We'll start with when a HTTP request is received. So the run a child flow is sending a get or a post HTTP request towards this to this flow, and herein you will define a JSON schema so that here we will receive the request ID and also the subscription ID of my tenant that has been stored in Azure Key Vault, and using the key lock, I will not see this sensitive data. Then here, adding the custom connector. When you would like to add a custom connector, it's just the same. You will add a new action, but then you go to custom, and there you will see your Azure Blueprint or your custom connector that you have created. You will click on it, and it's the same experience. So what you have created, just looking at the time, what we have created as an action is showing up here as an action into your action that in your connector that you have created. Let us see the result then. So it has been approved. Let's go back to Birgit. Go to Teams. You see also, you can also embed your app that you have created in Teams. So I have one place where you can do everything. I will go to my overview, and it's not just here, it's this one. And you see that the status is exceeded. So if I go to Azure, and I will do the refresh, we need to have a resource group Germany app. And you will see here the deployment. So based on the blueprint, we have deployed an application insights, web environment, and a web app. And when we go to tags, you will see the cost center here that we have given in. And when we go to access control, you will see Frederik as contributor, Birgit as owner, and Lutte as the reader. And this has been deployed as requested, and all is based on blueprints, where I have created a blueprint of the environment. So the blueprint definitions are here. So I thought it was based on this blueprint that I have created. And then the assignment blueprints, you will see that the Germany app has been assigned and successfully was deployed into Azure. So what was my experience about? Are there any questions? Maybe that first.
In the chat, there is no question, but I have a question.
Yes.
If you want to get started with adaptive cards, what would you suggest for somebody to look into first?
I think also learning from somebody is a good step to go forward. But for me, what helped was this site. So when I go to adaptivecards.io, is first reading documentation, understand what all the the parts are doing or how adaptive cards is working. There is also a small video here. And this video that's from Build 2019 is also a good one to start with. And then also understand the schema, what each item in the schema is doing. So this one, it's explaining very well. It's when you have a text blocks, you know the types. So a text block is a type. You can add a text, you can change the color, you can the font type. So everything is explained very well here. And then also using the samples to understand how they build it. So everything you can try it yourself, or in the designer, you can also add the templates over there. And then like here, and then you can see, okay, this is text blocks, they have built it like this. So learning from the example that already exists is a good starting point. And then trying. So you have here the selected host app. So if you would like to have an actionable message in Outlook, you can select this one. The code is generated for you, and it will look like this. Just a remark that I need to make is when you create, I will go to the Microsoft Teams because we have used Teams, if you would like to have, because variable cannot be defined here, because in Flow you have the dynamic variable, you will not find them here. And what I'm doing is when I am creating, for example, a text block and I need to have a variable, I will put a variable like this. And then I know when I'm importing the code, because if I go back to my Flow, where I have the approval, I need to go to the approval process. This one. So here you have the post-adaptive cards. This is still the old connector, but you copy and paste the code, the JSON code from the editor to your message, and then you have a text. And where you have added the triangles with the variable, then you know that you need to add a variable. Else it will, you need to have, if you have a big adaptive card, it's a lot of code, and you need to search where you need to enter the variable. That's a tip what I would like to give also with you all. So I think the best part is start reading documentation and use the samples. And that's what I did. And also when you have questions, ask community. But I think with the examples and the very well documentation of Microsoft here, you can start.
Okay, very nice solution indeed. So I think this will be useful for many people. Okay, last question that I have. Can you share once again your contact details? So because it's Friday late afternoon, and some people might want to see the recording. And then the question is, how can they contact you?
Yeah. Give me 1 second. Okay. I closed my presentation.
Okay.
Sorry for that. My PowerPoint is not working with me.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Quickly. Here it is.
Yeah, so here we are.
Yeah.
So in case you have questions later on, contact Frederick. Yeah. So at the end of this session, I would like to thank you very much, Frederick.
You're welcome.
I found it very useful, and it gives me some new impressions what you can do with the Power Platform custom connectors, and I learned adaptive cards. That's something I did not know before. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Nice to hear. Yeah.
Yeah. Then I got a job from Russ, who is helping me with the organization, and my job is to stop the recording so that everybody can see